And have you let everyone else in?
Yep, we are good.
Everybody's in. Okay. Good evening, everybody. I'm Brad Walker, Chair of the Boston Landmarks Commission. I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Boston Landmarks Commission on Tuesday, July 8th, 2025 at 6:04 p.m. Present are Commissioners Jacques Orlando Beriducci, Hoffman, Gagno, Amadeo, Ward Hyatt, Haney, and myself. Did anyone come in? I see John Freeman has arrived. Commissioner Freeman. Also present are staff from the Boston Landmarks Commission. I see Joe Cornish, Director of Design Review, Jennifer Gaugler, Architectural Historian, Elizabeth Sherva, Executive Director of the Boston Landmarks Commission, Kathy Kotaridis, Director of the Office of Historic Preservation. I think I saw Sarah Lawton, who is a preservation assistant. Anyone else on staff side that I missed? All right. You can participate in this hearing by going to the Zoom meeting link posted in our agenda online at zoom.us/J/9303-5604-793 or by calling 301-715-8592 and entering the meeting ID 9303 56. Can you see that? 5604793. You may also submit written comments throughout the evening to us via email at blc@boston.gov. In accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts executive order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, including the March 28th, 2025 amendment, extending the suspension of these provisions until June 30th, 2027, we are conducting this meeting online. To ensure public access to the deliberations of the Boston Landmarks Commission, the public may access this call through telephone and video conferencing. This hearing is being recorded. All conversations between commissioners should be audible to the public in attendance until the hearing has been adjourned. At this time, I'd like to ask if there's any media or elected officials present, and if so, would you please identify yourself, state your name, title, and affiliation. In order to be recognized or unmuted, you'll need to use the raise your hand function in the Zoom meeting platform or press *9 if you're calling your phone. So I'll give people a minute to do that.
You see Sam Matano.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Sam Montano. I'm the state representative for the 15th Suffolk, which is in Jamaica Plain.
Thank you.
Give it a second, see if anybody else wants to raise their hand.
Brad, Commissioner Kumahia has joined us as well.
Terrific. I will briefly read in a summary of tonight's agenda. We'll start with the ratification of meeting minutes from our previous meeting. We have several petitions to consider accepting petitions for potential landmarks. The first is the Boston 5-cent Savings Bank. The second is the Wesleyan Association building at 3238 Bromfield Street. The third is the GILCHRIST department store, which also includes a vote on a survey rating upgrade. We then move on to study reports and designations, and that is for a designation vote on 19 Kenton Road in Jamaica Plain. If anyone is here for the BUSSEY House potential presentation of the study report, that's at 1203 through 1205 Adam Street in Dorchester. That matter has been postponed, so you don't need to hang around for that. We'll have staff updates and projected adjournment at 7:30. And then I would like to ask at this time, are there any commissioners who would need to recuse themselves from any part of the deliberations this evening?
Yes, Brad, I will be recusing myself from the discussion on 32 to 38 Bromfield Street.
Thanks, David. So staff will put you into the waiting room during that part of the meeting and then retrieve you when we're done with that. All right. First item on the agenda is the ratification of the meeting minutes from June 24th, and meeting minutes for the hearing on June 24th were shared to the commissioners, but not until today. And so given that many commissioners may not have had time to read those, I'm going to ask that we postpone that vote until the next hearing and ask that commissioners take time to read those before our next hearing in July 22nd.
Do I have the wrong number for you? With the
Oops, getting some feedback on somebody. All right, we're going to move on to our three petition matters. The first is the Boston 5-cent Savings Bank. Purpose of a preliminary hearing is to provide petitioners with an opportunity to present the Boston Landmarks Commission why a property or properties should be considered for designation. If the commission votes to accept the petition for further study, there will be an opportunity for those either supporting or opposing designation to express their views at a later hearing. If after the presentation, the commission accepts the petition, written materials and additional documentation on the proposed landmark would be welcomed by the commission to help with the study. If the commission finds cause to reject the petition without further study, it may do so by simple majority vote, provided that its reasons for so acting are stated in the decision and are furnished in writing to the petitioners. And I would now like to invite the petitioner or petitioner spokesman to briefly present the reasons for the petition with respect to the significance of the proposed landmark and why it should be considered for designation. My understanding is Martha McNamara, you're gonna handle this for us.
Yep. Hello.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. I'm Martha McNamara. I'm an architectural historian and a professor in the art department at Wellesley College, where I teach historic preservation. I'm also a resident and a registered voter in the city of Boston, and I'm here on behalf of the petitioners to present the Boston 5-cent Savings Bank for landmark designation. Jennifer, Liz, can I share my screen? Okay.
You should be able to share your screen, Martha. There you go.
How's that? Everybody see that?
Yep, we can see it. Thank you.
Excellent. First, thank you to the commission for giving me a chance to present this petition, and thanks so much to the BLC staff for their assistance in putting the petition together. The Boston 5-cent Savings Bank is comprised of an early 20th century limestone-clad neoclassical commercial building with a substantial 1972 concrete modernist addition in the heroic or brutalist style. The original building and the addition were surveyed separately by the BLC in 1980, but their seamless integration on the interior and their ownership and construction history justify their landmarking as a single building. The complex is significant for the innovative role Boston 5 played in the country's banking industry. It's significant as important examples of the work of two prominent Boston architecture firms, and is an example of the transformative changes taking place in the architecture and urban form of Boston in the mid-20th century. And just to show you, this is a Google Earth view of the site. This is Province Street here, School Street, and Washington Street. I'm hoping you can see my cursor as I go over. Yes, good. And this is the 1925 Boston 5-cent Savings Bank here, and this is the 1972 edition. This is the Boston City Assessor's map showing the parcel here. Again, this is Province Street, School Street, and Washington. This is the 1925 building here, and this is the 1972 edition. The Boston 5-cent Savings Bank was founded in 1854 in a storefront on the first floor of the Universalist Meeting House at 30 School Street. And that's 30 School Street, the second building in on the right. And as you can see, the building right next to it has a sign, Boston 5-cent Savings Bank, and that's a building that was where that the bank occupied shortly after it moved from the Universalist Meeting House. It's the Boston 5-cent Savings Bank has occupied essentially the same site for approximately 140 years, from the time of its founding in 1854 until Citizens Bank acquired Boston 5 in 1993. In 1858, the bank built, quote, an elegant and substantial building, which is the one you see on the right in that image. An elegant and substantial Renaissance Revival building at 32 School Street on the corner of Province Street. The institution was established by a group of businessmen on the principle that the ability to deposit savings in a financial institution should be available to all. Banking in the 1850s was largely the province of those with substantial assets. By contrast, Boston 5's founders, led by Alonzo H. Evans, the bank's longtime treasurer and president, wanted to democratize savings and put it within the reach of ordinary people. Bank accounts, therefore, could be opened, as the bank's name suggests, with only 5 cents. The bank's goal was, quote, to induce the young and the industrial classes to save. The original building, the 1858 building, was demolished in 1924 when the site was taken by the widening of Province Street. The bank had earlier purchased the adjacent School Street lots on the former site of the Universalist Church and cleared them for construction of a new building designed by the prominent Boston architecture firm Parker, Thomas, and Rice. By the 1920s, Boston 5 had become one of the city's major financial institutions, with about 180,000 accounts and deposits of nearly 80 million. The Parker, Thomas, and Rice building's first 3 floors are defined at the School Street facade by 4 monumental Doric columns, while the 9-bay Province Street facade is more simply adorned with monumental pilasters. Floors 5 through 9 have paired rectangular windows flanked by corner pilasters and capped with a projecting cornice. Floors 1 and 2 house the double-height banking hall. The 3rd floor had offices for bank executives, while floors 4 through 9 were offices occupied by lawyers and real estate agents. Despite having been changed from bank to bookstore and now occupied by Walgreens, the banking hall retains many of its original interior elements, including plaster decoration, metalwork, and the massive bank vault. So at the bottom right here, you can see the housing for the revolving doors, some of the grill work on the windows, the plaster on the ceiling all survives from the original banking hall. And this is the vault. On the left is a Boston Globe article at the opening of the building. And at the top is a passbook, savings account passbook, that shows a clock and paired with the clock that's currently on the building today. In 1966, the Boston 5's president, Robert M. Morgan, sponsored a competition for the design of an addition to the bank's 1925 neoclassical building. Morgan had served as the chairman of the 1961 competition for Boston's new City Hall and invited the architects of that building, Gerhard Kalman and Michael McKinnell, to participate in the competition for a new bank building. The brief for the design called for a noble interior space for a new banking hall, and the site itself presented challenges due to the irregular shape created by the Boston Redevelopment Authority's plan, which was never realized, to reroute traffic to connect School and Milk Streets. So at the top right here is a Google map showing the sort of trace of where BRA wanted to run a connector between School and Milk. And that was never completed, but it left the lot as a kind of triangular lot with a curving front facade. Kalman and McKinnell solved for the site's unusual restrictions with a 7-bay curved facade of glass and concrete. This is actually the interior of what was the banking hall. It's now, of course, a Walgreens, but you can see the curved facade here of glass and concrete, and here is the roof of the building. The facade is defined by a 65-foot high colonnade of 8 cast-in-place concrete columns surmounted by a glass roof. The resulting design was not only praised for its, quote, strong architectural character, but also for its ability to, quote, turn the corner gracefully and respond sensitively to its historic setting with, quote, modernist structural expression. The 1972 building, constructed while Kalman and McKinnell's award-winning Boston City Hall was still under construction, is significant as an outstanding example of mid-20th century design and as an example of Boston's commitment to economic revitalization during the 1960s and 70s through urban renewal and the construction of strikingly modern buildings. The 1972 building is also notable for its sensitive siting on a triangular lot that defines one side of a plaza opposite the historic Old South Meeting House and Old Corner Bookstore. In 1974, the building was awarded the Boston Society of Architects Harleston Parker Medal. Both the 1925 building and the 1972 addition retain integrity of location, design, setting, materials, workmanship, feeling, and association. They both also meet criteria A and C of the National Register at the state level of significance, and they deserve consideration for Boston Landmark designation. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha. I would now like to recognize Jennifer Gaugler, the Boston Landmarks Commission architectural historian, and ask if staff has received any written comment from the owners.
Yes. An email from the property owner, Clarendon Group USA LLC, has been shared with the commissioners in advance of the hearing, and I would like to read the following contents of the email into the record. This was sent by Michael Murphy, the executive director. I would be accurate in saying that we recognize the historic significance of the building and embrace our stewardship of the property. That said, upon initial consideration, we would likely not be supportive of the landmarking process. We look forward to having an open dialogue with your office. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to also now recognize Elizabeth Sherva, executive director, and ask if you would summarize staff comments on the petition.
The Boston Landmarks Commission staff recommend accepting the petition for the Boston 5-cent Savings Bank for further study. It is the opinion of staff that the petition documents sufficient information to justify further study of the proposed designation.
Thank you, Liz, and I'll open it up to commissioners for questions or comment. Questions for Martha or other people on the proponent side that may be on the call. Anybody have any feelings about the petition? Jeff Gagno.
Okay, I'll have some feelings.
Thank you.
I was really happy to see this come in because having worked across the street from that building for a number of years, it kind of came to symbolize an example of kind of friendly brutalism, for lack of a better word. And maybe it's the amount of glass and the way the building engages with the street and curves around the corner to create the beautiful plaza there. And every chance I got to go in it, whether it was Barnes & Noble or its other subsequent retail purposes, it was just a joy to go inside as well and to be able to amble up the escalators into the older part of the building and to see that all connected in that seamless way. So I appreciated learning about why the building is shaped the way it is, for one thing, which is unusual, and to see some of the original landscaping plans where the building, the trusses for the roof kind of radiate out into the pavement of the plaza in front of it. Like that whole design was just really interesting and helpful to see. So I was glad to see this, and I'm supportive of accepting this petition.
Thank you, Jeff. Anybody else? Commissioner Amadeo?
Yeah, I have a question actually for the petitioner. Is the interior being requested to be part of the boundary of the landmark designation?
Wouldn't that be great? No, at this time it's exterior only. I think there's probably excellent arguments for landmarking the interior, both the 1972 edition, which retains its spatial volume and its concrete finishes, and as I pointed out, astonishingly, the 1925 banking hall also retains an extraordinary amount of original interior elements. At this time, though, and given how difficult it is to landmark interiors, the petitioners are just requesting for landmarking the exterior.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's nice that the current building owners have been good stewards of the building so far. One of the things that I've always found striking about the 1972 building, aside from it being, as Jeff said, on the friendlier side of brutalism, is the layout of the lighting on the ceiling echoes the radial pattern of the beams that support the roof. And it's always really, I don't know, kind of a joy at night to see those lights lit and see them supporting the design, the radial design of the building structure. And, without an interior designation, that could be lost. But that said, the other thing about the layout of the building that may have been prescribed by the BRA's street alignment that was never built, is that it yields a view to the south end. I mean, the Old South Meeting House and also the Old Globe Bookstore. And that the design yielding to that view, I think, is admirable and noteworthy.
Yeah, I think the building is brilliantly contextual. I was limited, of course, in how much material I could present and how many slides I could present. But as you point out, the building, because I guess that BRA street alignment, but it has the happy circumstance of having a kind of inviting plaza. It opens up this plaza to those 18th century buildings, those iconic 18th century buildings. And also the 1972 building really fits in very nicely with the 1925 building in terms of the delineation of floors. And the continuing of the colonnade around the corner, of course, is a sort of continuation of that Doric column sequence on the 1925 building. So it's one of the most, I think it's a mid-20th century building that is really, deeply contextual while at the same time being strikingly modern. So agree.
Well, I fully support the petition.
Commissioner Haney?
Hi, Martha, in your research, do you have any photographs of how the two banking halls were integrated when it was functioning as a bank? I came to Boston after this separation, so I don't know how they sort of related to one another inside.
Yep, that is a great question. And I have to say that, my research has mostly rested on not only the BLC survey forms, but also the recent publication, Heroic, Boston's Concrete Architecture by Mark Pasnick and Michael Kubo and Chris Grimley. There are drawings of Kalman McKinnell drawings at the MIT Museum. Some of them are online, and I was looking specifically for that relationship between the two banking halls, and I didn't see anything. I also did a cursory look for, interiors from the when it opened, when the 1972 building opened, and wasn't able to find them. So I'm sorry to say I don't have an answer to that question. I assume that the 1925 banking hall got repurposed in some way for the bank, but I don't exactly know how.
Okay. All right.
A good project for one of my students.
Terrific. All right, if there are no further comments or questions, I would like to entertain a motion to accept this petition for further study.
I'll make that motion. It's Jeffrey Haney.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
I'll second.
Second, please, John Amadeo.
Yes.
And voting would be alternate commissioners Hoffman, Gagnon, and Amadeo. And I'll start with Commissioner Jacques.
Yes.
Commissioner Freeman is not here, is that
No, I
correct?
am here and I
Hi,
vote
John.
yes.
Thank you, John. Gotcha. Commissioner Orlando. Commissioner Orlando has her hand up. She might need to be unmuted.
All set and yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Kumahia.
Yes.
Commissioner Baraducci.
Yes.
And Commissioner Hoffman.
Yes.
Commissioner Gagnon.
Yes.
Thank you. And Commissioner Amadeo.
Yes.
And I vote yes, so the matter carries. And let me now ask Jennifer Gaugler if you would please just lead us through the next steps after this.
Yes. So when commissioners vote to accept a petition for further study, it is added to the list of properties requiring the preparation of a study report. The purpose of a study report is to examine the property's architectural and historical significance as it relates to the criteria for designation. The amount of time it takes to complete a study report varies based on available funding and staff and the level of threat to the property. Once it is completed, the study report will be discussed at a public hearing, and public feedback, including comments from the owner, will be heard by the commission. After the conclusion of public testimony, the commission will vote whether or not to designate the property. If the commission votes to designate, then the proposed designation will require the review and approval of the mayor and city council. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes this matter, and we move on to the next petition, which is the Wesleyan Association. Someone's going to put Commissioner Baraducci in a waiting room, so I'll give it a second.
Give me a moment. David has been moved to the waiting room.
Can we check on Commissioner Orlando's raised hand? Does she need to be unmuted or readmitted?
I think she needs to be a co-host.
There we go. All set.
Okay. The Wesleyan Association building at 3238 Bromfield Street. So tonight we're going to discuss and vote on accepting the petition. Again, the petition is the first of 3 basic steps to becoming a landmark. The purpose of a preliminary hearing is to provide petitioners with an opportunity to present to the Boston Landmarks Commission reasons why a property or properties should be considered for designation. If the commission votes to accept the petition for further study, there will be an opportunity for those either supporting or opposing designation to express their views at a later hearing. If after the presentation, the commission accepts the petition, written materials and additional documentation on the proposed landmark would be welcomed by the commission to help in the study. If the commission finds cause to reject the petition without further study, it may do so by simple majority vote, provided that its reasons for so acting are stated in the decision and are furnished in writing to the petitioners. I would now invite the petitioner's spokesperson to briefly present reasons for the petition with respect to the significance of this proposed landmark and why it should be considered for designation, understanding that Judy McDonough is going to handle that.
Judy, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you. Yep.
And then you just let me know when you want me to advance the slide.
Sure. Before I start, I'd like to comment on the interior of Boston 5. Very early on, I had a savings account there in 1967. And you walked up some stairs from the old building down the stairs, a little stairway between the two. ADA hadn't been invented by then, so the change to the bookstore and Walgreens was later and wonderful. Anyway, that's just a public comment. I'm here to tell you about the Wesleyan Association building. As you can see, it's on Bromfield Street and built in 1870 by Boston architects, the Billings brothers for the Methodist Church. The actual church building, now demolished, was adjacent to this French Second Empire faced building that housed the church's newspaper called the Zion's Herald, a large meeting hall, numerous bookstores, publishers, and others. Importantly, the Boston University School of Law began here in 1872 and staying on Bromfield Street for about 2 decades, during which time it was one of the first law schools in the country to admit women and minorities. Similarly, the Boston Theological Institute, the precursor to the BU's School of Theology, was here. And as the state had just granted to the trustees of the Institute in 1869, they had granted a charter to start a university. So the building is the earliest home of Boston University. Next slide, please. Oh, here it is. Thanks. As you can see, this is the image from the publishing arm. And it's quite amazing that the exterior is largely intact of this pretty fancy style, as we could call it. Very little has changed. Obviously, modifications at the ground floor, especially on the entries. There were two entries. The enfranements at the mansard level, much simplified. And this great Victorian cresting is gone, sadly. And it's like many Victorian commercial buildings that had pretty swell signage quite over the building. Clearly, there were no sign codes then. Can we have the next slide? I've always thought those two buildings were almost formed barbells. In other words, the Wesleyan Association on Bromfield Street and Old City Hall, which is just the fullest blown French Second Empire style, along Province Street, which is the one block. But they really aren't, as you can tell from the 1875 Hopkins Atlas, that the Province Street is, so this is Old City Hall. And I don't, is my cursor showing? No, okay. Well, if somebody can put it down Province Street, this is the thank you to the, I can't drag it, nope. Do it, get on the Hopkins Atlas. Down Province, yeah, down there. Well, at any rate, they are not barbells. I thought they were. And likely, if you can go back to the assessor's map, please, where, and it's hard to see, but the Wesleyan building has a very irregular footprint. It's quite hard to see. Likely this bulky U-shaped building allowed a semi-courtyard that provided much more interior light than a regular footprint would. I tried to see if the that back part was a later addition, and frankly, I couldn't find evidence. That will come out in the study report, I hope. But it just looks like a later addition. But now to the next slide, please. The significance. As obviously it's significant as the headquarters of the Wesleyan Church in Boston. It was a denomination associated with Wesley, who was an 18th century cleric and founder of the Wesleyan Church. The church and the this organizational building eventually moved both operations to the south end, eventually becoming becoming a different denomination. Hammett and his brother were Boston-born architects. Hammett himself apprenticed to Asher Benjamin of Old West and Charles Street Churches fame, and he later joined Ammi B. Young's firm while Young was designing the Greek Revival Customs House. I think you all know that, with a large tower on top of it. Clearly, Billings himself aimed high and succeeded in learning the trade from two of Boston's most successful and the nation's most prestigious architects. Next slide, please. It's interesting, within Billings' work within the state, his work is really very small. There's only 15 places, some including some churches all over the place, Wellesley College structures, and a number of dwellings. Seen here are the Forest Hills Gate to the Forest Hills Cemetery, and these two exuberant places. The statue is the Pilgrim Monument in Plymouth, and to the right is the canopy, the original canopy over the rock, seen at the very bottom. I think it's even smaller now. That was demolished in the 1920s into the classical revival style that you can see now. The next slide, please. But it's amazing, of this French mansard style, there's at least Macris tells us, that there are 4,000 buildings in this style. But of those 4,000 buildings, mostly they're row houses in the inner neighborhoods, but not always in the inner neighborhoods. There are less than 20 non-domestic examples of the style. And looking at the granite ones, there's only 9 monumental ones. Architecturally, the building is remarkably significant. When you take this look at the whole state, again, there are oodles of domestic French mansard styles, lots of brick and stone and wood commercial styles, but Macris only finds 3 stone Second Empire styles. They're in Rockport, Wellesley, and Worcester. Now, reading these images from the top left, I didn't show Old City Hall because you know it so well. Winthrop Square, next to the Boston Transcript on Washington Street, and then 50 Broad Street, which until recently was the home of the BSA. Next line down is the St. Cloud and the Dartmouth hotels in the South End. And at the bottom on the left is the Pratt Building in the Blackstone block, even though it has a different name on it now, or until recently. The 2 buildings on the right on Temple Place, 29 through 43, just don't look French Second Empire to me. I think this is one of the things for Macris, which is an absolutely marvelous marvelous or thing. It catches the word mansard and then chucks them into that category, but these aren't French Second Empire. But it really makes the Wesleyan Association even more architecturally significant because it's only one of 7 in the city, not 9. Next slide, please. Martha spoke about the criteria, etc. I'm showing you the definition of landmark in chapter 772. I'm not going to read them. You know them well. It meets criteria D, not C. I'm sorry for that mistake. It's okay. Next slide, please. It's remarkably significant as the last works of Hammett Billings, as a rare French Second Empire commercial building in the city and the state. And another rarity is that it is this style dating from before the devastating Great Fire of 1872. And as you probably know, that obliterated, I think, 32 or 45 acres of commercial civic buildings to the southwest and to the southwest. An invisible print here is historically significant as the inaugural building of BU. And as Martha mentioned in the evaluation system, in the original survey in 1980, it carried the rank of 2, which is defined of major significance to the city and to the Commonwealth. And for those reasons, we, the petitioners, are hoping that this will be become a designated landmark. Thank you.
Brad, if you
Brett.
just spoke, I didn't hear that.
You're-
You don't appear to be muted.
How about now?
Yeah, good.
Sorry, there's a little button on this microphone that sometimes I forget about. Jen, I was going to ask you, please, if you would summarize for us and the comments received from the building owner.
Yes. A letter from the property owner, the Drucker Company Limited, has been shared with the commissioners in advance of this hearing. I would like to read the contents of the letter into the record. Excuse me. We understand that the petition is limited to the exterior of the building located at 32 to 38 Bromfield Street, as identified on the attached map and as depicted on the city's assessor's map, parcel 0304761000. It is important to note that we have owned the Wesleyan Association building since the 1950s. For the past 75 years, we have taken seriously our role as the owner and steward of this building and fully appreciate the important role that it plays in the vitality of the downtown crossing. In the event that the Commission accepts the petition for further study, we would welcome the opportunity to engage with the Commission and its staff in a cooperative and meaningful manner to advance the development of a study report and its associated standards and criteria in an effort to ensure the preservation of the building's exterior while allowing for appropriate development such that the building can continue to contribute to the vitality of the downtown crossing. We envision an approach similar to our joint efforts in advancing the study report and the associated standards and criteria of the recently designated Jewelers Building and the previously landmarked 20 to 30 Bromfield Street building. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would now recognize Elizabeth Sherva and ask Liz if you would give us any comments from the BLC staff on this matter.
Yes, the Boston Landmarks Commission staff recommend accepting the petition for the Wesleyan Association building for further study. It is the opinion of staff that the petition documents sufficient information to justify further study of the proposed designation.
Great. And I would now like to open it up to commissioners as we just did and see if anyone has comments or questions for the petitioner or just things they'd like to share with the rest of the commission before we move to a vote. Anybody? If not, I would entertain a motion to accept the petition.
I'll make that motion, Brad.
Thank you, Commissioner Orlando. And is there a second to that, please?
I'll second. John Amadeo.
Thank you, Commissioner Amadeo. Voting would be alternate commissioners Hoffman, Gagnon, Ward, Hyatt, and Haney. We'll start with Commissioner Jacques.
Yes.
Commissioner Freeman,
Yes.
Commissioner Orlando,
Yes.
Commissioner Kumahia,
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Yeah.
Commissioner Gagnon,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward Hyatt,
Yes.
Commissioner Haney,
Yes.
and I vote yes. And I invite again Jen Gaugler to review with members of the meeting the next steps in this matter.
Once the commissioners vote to accept a petition for further study, it is added to the list of properties requiring the preparation of a study report. The purpose of a study report is to examine the property's architectural and historical significance as it relates to the criteria for designation. The amount of time it takes to complete a study report varies based on available funding and staff and the level of threat to the property. Once it is completed, the study report will be discussed at a public hearing, and public feedback, including comments from the owner, will be heard by the commission. After the conclusion of public testimony, the commission will vote whether or not to designate the property. If the commission votes to designate, then the proposed designation will require the review and approval of the mayor and city council. Thank you.
Thank you. So that concludes this matter. Let's take a second to retrieve Commissioner Baraducci. And I recognize, I think that I saw Commissioner Barros Milner join us.
Commissioner Baraducci's back in and Commissioner Barrios is in.
Okay.
Thank you.
Selena, you can hear us?
Yes, I can hear. I was just raising my hand so you could see me.
Thank you. All right. Terrific. We are going to move on to the next presentation of a petition. This one also includes a vote on a survey rating upgrade. This is the GILCHRIST department store at 431 through 439 Washington Street. I'm sorry to read this same thing in 3 times, but bear with me. The purpose of a preliminary hearing is to provide petitioners with an opportunity to present the Boston Landmarks Commission with reasons why a property or properties should be considered for designation. If the commission votes to accept the petition for further study, there will be an opportunity for those either supporting or opposing designation to express their views at a later hearing. If after the presentation, the commission accepts the petition, written materials and additional documentation on the proposed landmark will be welcomed by the commission to help the study. If the commission finds cause to reject the petition without further study, it may do so by simple majority vote, provided that its reasons for so acting are stated in the decision and are furnished in writing to the petitioners. And I would now invite the petitioner's spokesperson to briefly present the reasons for the petition with respect to the significance of the landmark and why it should be considered for designation. And I'm going to open that to Ellen Lipsey.
Thank you. It's good to be here. And
nice to see you.
Good to see all of you. Am I coming through? My voice is
Yep, we're good.
Okay. And Martha McNamara is going to advance the slides. The GILCHRIST building at 439 Washington Street is significant as one of 3 regional Boston-based department store chains recognized, along with Filene's and Jordan Marsh, for its downtown Boston flagship building located at this corner, all 3, and for the entrepreneurial leadership of 2 locally based retailing families the Gilchrists and the Vornbergs. Further significance is conferred by the progressive design in the modern Gothic style associated with well-respected architect Henry Forbes Bigelow. Next slide. Thank you. Currently rated 3, further study, local significance, and contributing to a potential pre-fire mercantile National Register district. An upgrade to state significance is warranted for architecture and for commerce. Felix Vornberg's national prominence in retailing and his co-founding of the country's first credit union were unrecognized at the time of the BLC surveys, as was the company's promotion of innovations in retail efficiency, leading to lower pricing. Next slide. Thank you. The company originated with George Turnbull, a Scottish immigrant who established a dry goods store on Washington Street circa 1832 and circa 1850 first employed fellow Scotsman Robert Gilchrist as clerk. Turnbull retired after the Civil War, leaving the business to partners. By 1877, it became Robert and J. period, the initial Gilchrist. J. Gilchrist was Robert's son John, who assumed sole proprietorship, expanding the retail complex with frontage on Washington and 79 Winter. And here on the very right is the first of the Gilchrist Company's buildings, which still stands at, I'm sorry, I'm losing the address, but it's still on Washington Street with a 417, 425, constructed in 1899 with an addition of 4 studies. And the building in the center with the canopy is what's left of the building on the left, and that is E.B. Horn. And the building on the left, the rest of it, was demolished for the Gilchrist building. The complex, next slide, please. The complex grew further after John Gilchrist's death in 1901. A building added in 1907 was soon replaced by this present 10-story structure, Gilchrist flagship and cornerstone. When the Gilchrist building opened on October 21st, 1912, with 3 bays on Washington, 6 on Winter, 10 stories, and 2 basement levels, it doubled the size of the Gilchrist Company. New family management followed. Felix Vornberg emigrated from Germany to Boston in 1888, soon founding a retail business. In 1913, he became the active head of the Gilchrist Company. Felix was a go-getter, opening a Quincy store in 1939, then expanding to at least 7 regional locations. Articles about his various activities appeared over the years in both the Boston Globe and New York Times. 1943 obituaries in both papers cited his prominence and leadership in Boston, Massachusetts, and beyond. With fellow retailer Edward A. Filene, Felix co-founded the Massachusetts Credit Union, the nation's first. He was a founder and president of the American Retailers and served on numerous influential boards locally and beyond. His son, Frank Vornberg, joined Gilchrist in 1921, serving as president from 1943 to 1973. Suffering financial losses, the Gilchrist Company closed its downtown store around 1975. Next slide. The flagship 1911-1912 Parent Spandrel Gilchrist building is eye-catching, clad in white glazed terracotta, detailed in the late Gothic Revival or Modern Gothic style. A Boston Globe article on the eve of its opening announced the building as handsome in its simplicity, adding, perhaps with a nod to Filene's constructed at the same time, this store is not a monument or showplace. And I would add, indeed, the sleek exterior fit the interior designed for shopper efficiency. Gilchrist's modern Gothic structure looks skyward, emphasizing verticality like the much larger and taller Woolworth Building of 1913 in New York and the 1923-1925 Tribune Tower in Chicago. Locally, two other white terracotta structures are of note in central Boston. The Beaux-Arts style Berkeley Building, constructed in 1905 at Berkeley and Boylston Streets, which is designated as Boston Landmark, and the Gothic ornamental Blake portion of the Blake and Amory buildings at 505 Washington Street, which you may know as the Godfrey Hotel. Constructed in 1908, listed individually on the National Register for Architecture and Garment and Apparel Related Occupancy. MIT educated Henry Forbes Bigelow partnered with a succession of Boston-based architecture firms, first with Walter T. Winslow and George H. Wetherill. Bigelow designed numerous commercial buildings in Boston, including the Tremont Building, Board of Trade, and Steiner and Walker buildings on Piano Row. Beyond Boston, and starting with that partnership, his many works include the Tudor Revival St. Mark's School in Southborough, Radcliffe Schlesinger Library, and the American Antiquarian Society in Worcester, which is a National Historic Landmark, founded in 1812 as the oldest historical society in the United States with a national focus. With his later partner, Philip Wadsworth, Bigelow left a prolific legacy in Massachusetts, including this building, and basically he is noteworthy, Bigelow, for an embrace of diverse styles and building types, including commercial, educational, civic, and residential works. The Gilchrist building retains its architectural integrity despite storefront alterations and replacement windows. It remains part of a large group of parcels like that occupied by the Gilchrist Company, and we understand that plans for redevelopment are pending. The Gilchrist building merits, next slide, please, a survey rating upgrade and consideration for Boston Landmark designation for architecture and commerce and the individuals associated with both. Located at ground zero of department store retailing in New England, like Filene's, thoughtful rehabilitation can capitalize on the Gilchrist building's exterior presence while accommodating new uses. Thank you, and I thank the BLC for all its wonderful survey information, and thanks to Martha for her assistance.
Great, thank you very much, Ellen. As I mentioned before, the commission is going to take 2 votes on this matter this evening. The first vote would be whether to accept a proposed survey rating upgrade, and the second would be whether to accept the petition for further study. Before taking the petition vote, comments from the owner will be read into the record, and commissioners will be invited to discuss the petition or ask questions, but we're going to start first with the survey rating upgrade. Boston Landmarks Commission has received a written request to review the survey rating for the Gilchrist department store in downtown Boston. According to Boston Landmarks Commission policy, staff of the commission have evaluated the architectural and historic significance of this property based on the submission of documentary and field evidence and a comparison of buildings of comparable age, type, and style from the commission's survey data. Staff then produced an inventory continuation sheet and provided it to the commission for their review in advance of this hearing. The inventory continuation sheet conveys the staff recommendation for an upgrade in survey rating. The commission can vote to accept, reject, or change this staff recommendation. The change of a building's rating does not constitute designation of a Boston landmark or listing in the National Register of Historic Places. And I would now like to invite, again, Jennifer Gaugler to read the staff recommendation on the survey rating.
Thanks, Brad. Could we pull up the slide? I just have one slide to go along with my talking. I'll try to keep it brief since we just had such a very good and thorough presentation on this building. I did want to start with just a quick summary of the history of the survey rating for this property. The original survey rating assigned to this building by BLC staff in 1980 was level 3, local significance. In 2000, the survey rating was upgraded to 3FS, which is local significance and potentially higher with further study. In 2011, following further study, Neil Larson of Larson Fisher Associates produced a new Form B continuation sheet and a National Register of Historic Places criteria statement form, in which he stated that the property meets criteria A and C of the National Register at both the local and state levels. And then in 2025, as you know, constituents wrote to the BLC asking the commission to consider upgrading the survey rating to level 2, which is state significance. They submitted a narrative in support of this request. So after reviewing the above materials and comparing the Gilchrist building to comparable buildings in the vicinity, such as the Wesleyan Association building, which we just heard about, which does have a survey rating of 2 or state significance, BLC staff concurs with the request and recommends that the commission vote to upgrade the survey rating for this property from 3FS to 2. Staff would like to provide the following reasons for this upgrade. I will just very briefly summarize them. The building is historically significant as a component of a larger department store complex, which was one of the 3 most significant regional department store chains based in Boston, and the other 2, as you heard, were Filene's and Jordan Marsh. Furthermore, Felix Vorenberg, who became the head of the Gilchrist company the year after this building opened and expanded Gilchrist to 8 locations across eastern Massachusetts, joined with Edward Filene to co-found the nation's first credit union. Architecturally, I'd also just like to say that the building is significant for its distinctive Gothic Revival features. You can see the street level facades have been heavily altered and the windows have been replaced with single pane units. However, the rest of the exterior is a very intact white glazed terracotta facade with molded details, as you can see here, pointed Gothic arches, on the horizontal panels between the floors. We have bundled columns that evoke a Gothic cathedral. We have gargoyles at both the second story and the roofline, and a very distinctive parapet. This building is also The extensive amount of fenestration surrounded by this light terracotta paneling illustrates a key period in the evolution of downtown commercial architecture when lightweight and highly glazed steel frame buildings were replacing the more opaque, heavy masonry structures of the prior era. And last, I just want to mention, as I believe you heard, that it is a work by Bigelow and Wadsworth, which is a successor of Nathaniel J. Bradley's firm. So in summary, BLC staff recommend a survey rating upgrade from 3FS, which is local significance further study, to 2, which is state significance. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. I would now like to entertain a motion to change the survey rating as recommended by staff for this property.
I'll make that motion. This is John Freeman.
Thank you, John.
I
And
will
is there a
second that
second, please?
motion. This is Felicia.
Hi, Felicia. Thank you. Voting would be alternate commissioners Barrios, Milner, Amadeo, and Haney. And I'll start with Commissioner Jacques.
Yes.
Commissioner Freeman.
Yes.
Commissioner Orlando.
Yes.
Commissioner Kumahia.
Yes.
Commissioner Baraducci.
Yes.
Commissioner Barrios, Milner.
Yes.
Commissioner Amadeo.
Yes.
Commissioner Haney.
Yes.
And I vote yes. So the survey rating is upgraded to 2. Jen, will you review with members of the public what that means?
Yes, next steps. These 6 original survey review participants are notified of all rating changes accepted by vote of the Boston Landmarks Commission. So those are the Boston Preservation Alliance, the Society of Architectural Historians, the Massachusetts Historical Commission, the Chamber of Commerce, the Greater Boston Real Estate Board, and the Boston Planning Department. Each of these parties may formally object in writing to the BLC within 45 days of the date of this notification. The BLC will consider objections, but will not be obliged to reverse its decision. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we move on to the second vote on the same matter, the actual acceptance of the petition. And I would like to ask again, Jen, if BLC staff has received written comment from the owner of this property.
Yes, a letter from the property owner, the Drucker Company Limited, has been shared with the commissioners in advance of this hearing, and I would like to read the following contents of that letter into the record. We understand that the petition is limited to the exterior of the building located at the corner of Washington and Winter Streets, as identified on the attached map. It is important to note that we have owned the GILCHRIST department store since 1977. For the past 48 years, we have taken seriously our role as the owner and steward of this building and fully appreciate the important role that it plays in the vitality of the downtown crossing. In the event that the commission accepts the petition for further study, we would welcome the opportunity to engage with the commission and its staff in a cooperative and meaningful manner to advance the development of a study report and its associated standards and criteria in an effort to ensure the preservation of the building's exterior while allowing for appropriate development such that the building can continue to contribute to the vitality of the downtown crossing. We envision an approach similar to our joint efforts in advancing the study report and standards and criteria of the recently designated Jewelers Building and the previously landmarked 20 to 30 Bromfield Street Building. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would now like to recognize Elizabeth Sherva, Executive Director, to ask for a summary of staff comments on this.
The Boston Landmarks Commission staff recommend accepting the petition for the Gilchrist department store for further study. It is the opinion of staff that the petition documents sufficient information to justify further study of the proposed designation.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to open it up to commissioners for comments, questions of the petitioner, discussion points. Commissioner Gagno.
Okay, more feelings about this building. Before I paid attention to the significance of things like Gothic Revival, glazed terracotta, of which this is an amazing and I think maybe unique, at least for its gargoyles, example in the city. On a school trip to Boston in the early 1980s, my friends and I noted the yellow corner sign when it looked like Pac-Man was eating the rest of the words of corner. And so that's a very distinct memory from about 1981 or so. So I don't remember any other building that I saw in Boston at that time, but this one for some reason stuck with me. So I support this for the reasons laid out in the petition, but also just for the lightness and the well-preserved status of this building.
And I would just say that I never knew until this evening that the lonely little E.B. Horn building is just a remnant of what was once a much larger building. Anybody else? If not, I would entertain a motion to accept this petition for
Brad?
further study.
Commissioner Haney has his hand
Oh,
up.
sorry, Jeff, please.
I remember years ago at some festival at night in Boston, the Polish projection artist Krzysztof Wodiczko had a huge projection on the building, and it was spectacular. You know, the white porcelain and the I think all the shades were drawn at the time, and it was quite stunning.
Cool. All right, I'm going to go back to asking for a motion to accept the petition for further study.
I'll make that motion, Brad.
Sorry, who was that?
David Berducci.
I'll second, John Freeman.
John Freeman. Voting would be alternate commissioners Barrios, Milner, Gagno, and Ward Hyatt. Commissioner Jacques.
Yes.
Commissioner Freeman.
Yes.
Commissioner Orlando.
Yes.
Commissioner Kumahia.
Yes.
Commissioner Baraducci.
Yes.
Commissioner Barrios, Milner.
Yes.
Commissioner Gagno.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward Hyatt.
Yes.
And I vote yes. So the petition is accepted. Jen, will you lead us through, for those who haven't been paying attention, what happens next?
Yes, for the third and final time, but we want to follow full procedure for each petition. So once the commissioners vote to accept a petition for further study, it is added to the list of properties requiring the preparation of a study report. The purpose of a study report is to examine the property's architectural and historical significance as it relates to the criteria for designation. The amount of time it takes to complete a study report varies based on available funding and staff and the level of threat to the property. Once it is completed, the study report will be discussed at a public hearing, and public feedback, including comments from the owner, will be heard by the commission. After the conclusion of public testimony, the commission will vote whether or not to designate the property. If the commission votes to designate, then the proposed designation will require the review and approval of the mayor and city council. Thank you.
All right, that concludes this matter. And we move on to 19 Kenton Road in Jamaica Plain. Tonight we are considering the designation of 19 Kenton Road in Jamaica Plain as a Boston landmark. The proposed designation of 19 Kenton Road was previously discussed at the Commission's hearing on June 10th, 2025. And at that time, I exercised my discretion as chair to postpone the designation vote and extend the public comment hearing. Tonight, the commissioner will take additional testimony on the study report and the proposed designation, and will then proceed to vote on the proposed designation. And I would now invite Jennifer Gogler again to make a brief presentation, reminding commissioners of the findings of the study report.
Yes, I will now give an abbreviated version of the presentation to remind commissioners about our findings in the study report. If you could go to the next slide. So 19 Kenton Road was built as an income-producing rental property on land belonging to prominent Boston businessman and real estate developer Isaac Harris Carey. Carey was an influential developer of the Stony Brook area of Jamaica Plain, and his main house still exists at 235 Forest Hill Street, as you can see at the bottom of the map. Next slide. The house at 19 Kenton is significant as a surviving example of a detached two-family dwelling from the early period of Jamaica Plain's transformation from farming and resort community to streetcar suburb. It is one of the earliest houses in the area. Next slide. 19 Kenton Road is also architecturally significant as an early example of the Italianate style in Boston. It was constructed between 1843 and 1856. The exact date is yet unknown. It has Italianate detailing on a Greek Revival front gabled form, and the front gable subtype comprises about 10% of surviving examples of Italianate architecture. Next slide. Kenton Road features a mix of mid to late 19th century architectural styles, including Italianate, Greek Revival, Second Empire, and Colonial Revival, some of which you see here. The house at 19 Kenton Road is a historic anchor of this architecturally distinctive enclave, which has seen little change or intrusion. The loss of 19 Kenton Road would detract from the cohesiveness of this historic neighborhood. Next slide, please. BLC staff recommends designation of the house to protect against demolition because its loss, as I said, would be a major disruption to the unique neighborhood. The intent of designation is not to oppose infill on the site or increased density in the neighborhood, but to ensure that any new construction on this parcel does not damage the historic building or detract from the existing rhythm and scale of the neighborhood. And as you can see here on the top right, we have excerpt from Macris, so you can see all the inventoried points along Kenton Road, and below that you can see that the house sits on a large double wide parcel. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. I'll give you a sec to catch your breath, but then can you remind us of the Commission's staff recommendations?
I can. So Boston Landmarks Commission staff recommends that the Commission designate 19 Kenton Road as a landmark under Chapter 772. To clarify, the vote this evening is to designate 19 Kenton Road as an individual landmark. When a study report and designation vote moves forward for the Kenton Greenwood Architectural Conservation District, that petition was recently accepted for further study. So when that moves forward, 19 Kenton would also be included within that district, but currently no timeline has been established to move the Architectural Conservation District study report and designation vote forward. So again, the vote tonight is only for designating 19 Kenton Road as an individual landmark. Thank you.
All right. And again, Jen, can you please update us on written feedback received by the Commission?
Yes. So we have received the following public feedback, which has been shared with the commissioners in advance of the hearing tonight. We've received 3 letters in support of landmark designation from neighborhood organizations. Those are the Stony Brook Neighborhood Association, the Loring Greeno House, and the Sumner Hill Association. 6 elected officials have written in support of landmark designation: State Senator Liz Miranda, State Representative Sam Montano, City Councilor Brian Worrell, City Councilor Enrique Pepin, City Councilor Benjamin Weber, and City Councilor Henry Santana. We've received 1 letter of support for landmark designation from the Massachusetts Historical Commission as voted by their commissioners. We've received 46 letters in support of landmark designation from the public, primarily from local neighborhood residents. We've received 9 letters in opposition to designation from the public, primarily from local neighborhood residents. And we have received 4 letters from the property owner in opposition to designation. Thank you.
Thanks, Jen. At this time, we move on to verbal testimony, and I would first ask legal counsel representing any participant in the hearing. Please identify yourself for the record. Again, you'll need to raise your hand in the Zoom meeting platform or press *9 if you're on a phone. I see a couple of hands up.
Hey, Richard Lenz, we'll call on you first. I'll have you unmute, and we'll give you 5 minutes for your comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and through to the members of the commission. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you. So good evening. For the record, my name is Richard Lenz. I'm an attorney with a business address of 245 Sumner Street in East Boston. I represent Mark and Paul Federico, the owners of 19 Kenton Road. Mr. Chairman, I have 3 points I'd like to make this evening. I'll try to be as brief and concise as I can. I know I do only have 5 minutes. First, as set forth in our objections submitted to the commission previously, this commission is without jurisdiction under its enabling act to proceed with the designation of 19 Kenton Road as a landmark, as this is admittedly significant only to the city of Boston, and it does not meet the statutory definition of a landmark found in Section 2 of your enabling act. I do think it is important to clarify a point that was made during the previous hearing prior to acceptance of the study report. During the last hearing, your staff indicated to you as commissioners that you are authorized to consider petitions for properties that maintain only local significance based upon what can not only be described as a creative and I guess self-serving interpretation of Section 4 of your Enabling Act. As this commission's aware, Section 4 establishes the various levels of protection that the commission can provide through designation, namely a landmark district, and an architectural conservation district. However, according to your staff's comments, it's believed that because the language of Section 4 of the Enabling Act, which refers to significance to the city, state, New England region, or nation, is different than the language used in definitions for landmark or landmark district, that somehow a drafting error by the legislature some 50 years ago explains why landmarks with only local significance can now be designated. This is despite years of past practice and a failed effort by the City Council to amend the Enabling Act several years ago. The view that this is somehow a drafting error is not only unsupported by any point or judicial interpretation that's on point or specific guides from the legislature itself, but it also requires you as commissioners to ignore simple logic, English grammar, and the rules of statutory construction. Of course, the language in Section 4 would not use what can only be defined as the stricter language found in the definitions for landmark and landmark district, because Section 4 authorizes the commission to not only designate a landmark or landmark district, it also authorizes you to designate an architectural conservation district. By definition, that has a lower threshold of significance, and had the legislature used that same language in Section 4 as was used for the definition of a landmark or landmark district, it would contradict the definition found in Section 2 for an ACD. The Supreme Judicial Court, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission, could not have been any more clear in these situations. In the 2009 case that's been repeatedly cited, the SJC said that it construes various provisions of statutes in harmony with one another, recognizing that the legislature does not intend internal contradiction. The bottom line here is that the Section 4 and Section 2 definitions are in fact in harmony with each other, and properties with only local significance to the city of Boston are not eligible for designation as a Boston landmark, and the commission lacks the statutory authority to do so. This is exactly the reason why elevating a survey rating to at least state significance appears to still be required in other instances, including the petition you just voted on to accept with an elevation of the survey rating. That admittedly had local significance, and that would have been, based upon staff's comments, good enough to accept as a petition without any elevation of a survey rating. Second, Mr. Chairman, in May of this year, my office made a public records request concerning records maintained by the city of Boston with respect to those matters raised in our objections. Without justification, the cities failed to respond to those requests in the time required under the Commonwealth's public records law. That failure of the city to provide those responses resulted in an appeal by us to the Commonwealth Supervisor of Public Records. Even if the commission had the statutory authority to designate, which we dispute, it would be patently unfair to my clients for the commission to proceed with designation, while at the same time, the city ignores its statutory responsibility to comply with our request, and which would afford us a meaningful opportunity to be heard and ensure this is a transparent process. And finally, Mr. Chairman, as this commission is well aware, there are 2 complaints filed on behalf of my clients alleging violations of the open meeting law as it relates to actions of the commission with respect to 19 Kenton Road, and specifically the failure to take votes to elevate the survey rating before accepting the petition to designate, as you just did in your previous petition. While the commission is taking the position that no violations occurred, those matters are now in the process of being reviewed by the Commonwealth's Attorney General's office. With that, I would conclude by respectfully requesting the commission vote to deny the designation of 19 Kenton Road as an individual landmark. Alternatively, at the very least, the commission should pause and allow the Attorney General's office to review the Federico's complaints and determine whether a violation has occurred and if curative action is required. With that, Mr. Chairman, I thank you and the commission for your time. I'm happy to address any comments or answer any questions.
Thank you so much. I see 1, 2, 3, 4 other hands. I just want to remind those people we're looking for legal counsel representing participants in the hearing only. If you're not one of those, maybe lower your hand. Okay. At this time, we will move on to verbal testimony or continue with verbal testimony, and we have to take that in a specific order as specified with the Boston Landmarks Commission regulations. I'll highlight here the order in which we're going to do that. First, from elected officials, then from Planning Department, and then from the Planning Department and the Massachusetts Historical Commission, who have statutory review responsibility, then from the property owner, then from those speaking or submitting written testimony tonight in support of designation, then from those speaking or submitting written testimony tonight in opposition to designation, then from those who wish to comment not necessarily in support or opposition to designation, and finally from anyone with questions or rebuttals on the testimony we hear tonight. If you wish to speak when I call your category, please raise your hand in the Zoom platform using the raise your hand button, or press *9 if you're calling in on a phone line. Please start by identifying yourself, state your name, your address, your relationship to the property. Public comment will be limited to 5 minutes for the petitioner spokesperson and the owner, and 2 minutes per person for others. Comments should be focused on the validity of the study report and the criteria for designation. I want to emphasize the importance of that. We do not take comments about the ownership, the use, or future development plans for the property. So I'm going to go through those categories now one at a time, and I would first recognize comments from any elected officials. Joe, you'll lead us through this?
Yep, we'll begin with Sam. Sam, if you could give us your full name and who you represent.
Oh, hi, my name is Samantha Montaño. I'm the state representative for the 15 Suffolk, where 19 Kenton is located. And I'm here again in support of this project, gaining landmark status. I believe it's historical significance to the neighborhood and anchoring of that particular area. If you walk through it, you can definitely feel the situation in place as when the neighborhood was built. And so I'd like to, again, reiterate my support for the project, and thank you.
Great, thank you. We'll move next to Jordan Frias. Jordan, you'll have your 2 minutes.
Good evening, members of the board. Jordan here from Councilor Ben Weber's office. Thank you, commissioners, for the opportunity to speak. Ben Weber represents District 6, which includes Jamaica Plain and the residents at 19 Kenton Road. As you heard from many folks tonight, the house at 19 Kenton Road blends various architectural styles and is a great example of Boston's history of middle and working class housing in a neighborhood. A previously large estate was subdivided into many parcels to become affordable to working families. The existing residence is sited on a double lot parcel. Instead of demolition and construction of one larger building, the Stony Brook Neighborhood Association has suggested preserving the existing historical building and constructing a separate residential structure on the double lot. This option would provide the same number of market rate units that the developer has currently proposed while preserving the existing structure. Our office has sent in letters of support with Rep. Montaño, who you just heard from recently, and appreciate our other council colleagues who also sent in letters of support, which were mentioned earlier, including Councilor Santana, Pepin, and Morrell. So just wanted to get that on the record for Councilor Weber, and thank you so much for your time, commissioners. Appreciate it.
Great, thank you.
All right, we're going to move on. Is there anyone on the call from the Boston Planning Department or the Massachusetts Historic Commission? No. We'll hear from the property owner next. Heard from the property owner's legal representation, but we'd like to afford an opportunity to hear from the owner directly.
All right, I see Richard Lentz has his hand raised again.
Richard, I'm not sure it's an opportunity for you to get another 5 minutes.
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, I made the record. My client is here. I believe they are present. I just want to make sure for the record that I indicate they are here, but you have my testimony for the record, so we're all set.
Appreciate that. And we'll move on to anyone speaking or having submitted written testimony this evening in support of designation. You'll have 2 minutes. And please speak to your support of the designation, but not to any comments regarding ownership or potential use of the property.
Okay, we'll start with Jenny Nathans. Jenny, you will have 2 minutes to make your comment.
All right, thank you very much. I'll just turn my, I can't start my video. Okay, I am would like to comment. I've given testimony before and I've sent in a letter of support, but I just want to reiterate that I am still in support of landmarking 19 Kenton Road. I live very close to this house and I know firsthand that 19 Kenton contributes significantly to the architectural quality and history of the entirety of Kenton Road and Greater Jamaica Plain. I just want to quote from the study report. 19 Kenton Road is architecturally significant as a mostly intact vernacular Italianate-style multifamily residence in the Parkside sub-neighborhood of Jamaica Plain, and is an early example of the vernacular Italianate style in Boston. Further, it is significant as a surviving example of a detached two-family dwelling built for investment purposes from the early period of Jamaica Plain's transformation from a farming and resort community to a streetcar suburb. The house also reflects the history of the working and middle class individuals and families of JP that began to move to the neighborhood during the period of time that the house was constructed. The house's the owners and occupants included a piano company foreman, a retail liquor store proprietor, a mason, a photographer, a milkman, a driver, a trucker, a carpenter, and a stair builder. The house's tenant record represents a class of people typically not represented in Boston's landmark properties, but no less important to the history of the city than the Boston Brahmins. So I respectfully request that the Boston Landmarks Commission vote to accept the study, I'm sorry, not the study report, the actual landmarking of the property. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. We'll move now to Jan Wampler. Jan, you'll have 2 minutes to make your comment.
Yes, thank you. My name is Jan Wampler. I live at 39 Kenton Road, about 3 houses from this house, and I support the landmark for this house. I'm also an architect and a practitioner, as well as a professor of architecture at MIT for several decades. I want to say that architecture is a reflection of the times. It's an echo, and this is certainly an echo. It's an echo of the time that Boston was changing economically to a working or a middle class, which made Boston what it is. And so the building that we're looking at is an echo of that, and therefore, in my opinion, a very important building to be kept. And I thank you.
Great, thank you for your comments. We'll move next to Jennifer Urhane. You'll have 2 minutes to make your comments.
Hi, if it's okay, there's 2 other neighbors who are not able to attend tonight who asked that I read a brief statement from them. Is that okay?
Well, you have 2 minutes to make your comments.
Sorry, can I pipe in? Jennifer, you're the petitioner spokesperson, right?
Right.
So you actually have 5 minutes.
Okay, well, I'll go through mine as quickly as possible, but I would like to, just for the record, I've got 2 other neighbors who unfortunately couldn't make it, but really wanted to make a statement. So my name's Jennifer Urhane. I live just a couple blocks away from Kenton Road at 47 Rossmore Road, and I am the petitioner for this landmark. At the last hearing 2 weeks ago, 18 supporters attended. Not all could attend this time, but about the same number, but not all the same people are on the call today to support the landmark. I promise you, no one has changed their minds. Landmarking this house still has overwhelming support. Kenton Road only has 6 houses on it, and almost all the owners responded to a request to be listed in a letter to the Landmarks Commission in support of landmarking. Christina Toby and Matt Sullivan, 9 Kenton, Michael Babcock and Denise Feeney, 18 Kenton, Will and Becky Deaconess, 23 Kenton, Alan and Nadia Torres, 30 Kenton number 1, Laura Jackson and Dave Tafaris, 30 Kenton number 2, Luz Dari and Brent Barlow, 30 Kenton number 3, Patty Vernon, 31 Kenton, Eva Les Vasquez, 35 Kenton, Jen Wampler and Elizabeth Reed, 39 Kenton, Ulrika and Brad Bankman, 40 Kenton, Carolyn Kelly and family, 44 Kenton, Tom Daner and Carol Mallory, 56 Kenton, Deirdre Rogers and Fred Carr, 63 Kenton, and Joy Silverstein, 64 Kenton. They're also direct abutters immediately behind this property on Gartland Street. All support the landmark. Rachel O'Connor and Mike Dunn, 14 Gartland number 1, Pam Smith, 14 Gartland number 2, and Eric Shog, 14 Gartland number 3. The organizations and electeds and support were already listed by Jennifer. I would just like to call out the Stony Brook Neighborhood Association, whose catchment area includes Kenton Road. The SNA's membership voted unanimously to support the landmark. I ask that the commissioners designate this house as a landmark because of its part in the early history of the development of Jamaica Plain, and because it is an intact and early example of a rare and particular style of Italianate. It is the oldest house on the street, on one of the earliest streets in the area. I ask you to please follow what the community wants and vote to make this house a landmark. The study report makes its case. And if I still have time, I'll read another statement.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, I'm trying to talk fast. Karen Guida lives at 6 Sherland Street, which is right crosses Kenton Road. Karen says, thank you for allowing Jen to read my comments for this meeting, of which I'm unable to attend. My name is Karen Guida, and I agree to the landmarking of 19 Kenton Road in Jamaica Plain. It is difficult to talk about 19 Kenton in isolation without talking about the neighborhood, my neighborhood. I have lived in my neighborhood for more than 40 years. Depending on where the line is drawn, I am the 7th or 8th newest homeowner to have moved into my neighborhood. That means 6 or 7 homeowners have lived here longer than I have. Over those 40 years, I've seen at least 3 homeowners move into and out of 19 Kenton. In their own way, each has made an effort to preserve 19 Kenton, not change it, nor destroy it. They have not left their neighborhood with a character change. In some instances, I felt they made my neighborhood a better place. To have someone who doesn't live in my neighborhood, let alone Boston or 19 Kenton, destroy or significantly modify a building, which is a part of Jamaica Plain's and Boston's history, is not acceptable to me. People may say that landmarking 19 Kenton is stopping progress. I disagree. We need to preserve what remaining history we have in Boston, in Jamaica Plain, and in my neighborhood. Thank you. I have one more if you have time.
Sure, yep, go ahead.
Okay. Laura McCune Poplin. I live at 70 William Street in Jamaica Plain. That's a couple blocks over from Kenton Road. And I would like to voice my support for the landmarking and preservation of 19 Kenton Road. Although Boston needs more housing, it should not be at the expense of Boston's history and culture, especially when that history represents the lives of ordinary, hardworking Americans who often get overlooked, but without whom the city would not function. Our neighborhood has already lost a cultural treasure in Doyle's, which has been completely gutted to make way for multiple housing units. Creative solutions exist to preserve old structures while building new units. There's no reason to demolish what cannot be replaced and should not be forgotten. Sincerely, Laura McCune Poplin. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, we'll move to Joy Silverstein. Joy, you will have 2 minutes to make your comment.
Hi, my name is Joy Silverstein. I live at 64 Kenton Road, and I've been here 40 years. And this house is significant on the street. It's attractive, needs some work, but it's attractive and it represents so much. I didn't even know how much it represented until we did some research on it. So I'm just here to say that I support landmarking this individual house.
Great, thank you. We'll move to Jonathan McCurdy. Jonathan, you will have 2 minutes to make your comments. You should be able to unmute yourself.
There we go. Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Jonathan McCurdy. I live at 47 Rossmore Road, and I would ask you to support landmarking 19 Kenton Road. Again, as has been said, I think that this is a really important building in the context of the street and in the context of Jamaica Plain and Boston. The fact that it's supported working class people and housed working class people throughout its history, I think is something that is very important and significant and underrepresented. So I again would request humbly that the Landmark Commission would vote to approve this landmarking of 19 Kenton. And thank you. I look forward to hearing the other comments and to hearing your decision.
Great, thank you. We'll move next to Michael Babcock. Michael, you will have 2 minutes to make your comments. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Thank you for the opportunity. Michael Babcock, 18 Kenton Road, and Denise Feeney, 18 Kenton. We continue to support landmarking this historic structure. Our house here has looked out at 19 Kenton for decades. I've only had the pleasure of looking out at it for 18 years, 33 years in Jamaica Plain, but 18 years down here in Stony Brook. We value this home. And in fact, I trimmed the hedges the other day because we like to have a nice looking street, and this is part of the streetscape. So we support landmarking. Thank you.
Great, thank you. We'll move next to Alcurtis Clark. You should be able to unmute yourself and you'll have
Now,
2
thank
minutes
you.
to make your comments.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me now?
Yep, perfect.
Great. Hi, my name is Al Curtis Clark, and I am at 36 Gartland Street in Jamaica Plain, Stony Brook neighborhood, which is 1 block south of the Kenton Road. I am an owner and resident for nearly 40 years. I am in support of bestowing the landmarking status of 19 Kenton Road, and I ask this commission to please approve the status as well, as it is important to welcome new development into our neighborhoods, especially in the Stony Brook Neighborhood Association, which is right in the middle of the Washington Street corridor in Jamaica Plain. It's equally important to preserve the historical and cultural significance of a century of historical architecture. I ask that you help us, the residents of this neighborhood and this city, to do just that. Preserve our history and its beauty. Thank you for your time.
Great, thank you. We'll move next to Kaliga. Kaliga, you will have 2 minutes to make your comments.
Hi, I live in the Stony Brook neighborhood area, and I wish to say that the significance of landmarking this beautiful home goes well beyond Jamaica Plain. It's part of what makes Boston, Boston, to have old, beautiful buildings. And it does have historical and architectural significance, but people call it progress when we build glass and steel towers and things like that. I don't really call it progress when that means doing away with our history when it can and should be preserved. And this building is still livable. This building is living history, and you know, it is significant to preserve historical, beautiful things. And so I ask that you landmark 19 Kenton Road, please.
Great, thank you for your comments. We'll move next to Peg Preble. Peg, you'll have 2 minutes to make your comments. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Thank you. My name is Peg Preble. I've been in Jamaica Plain for 30 years plus. I'm on the Jamaica Plain Neighborhood Council. I support landmarking this building. I understand the need for housing in Boston, but I also understand the need for our history, and they should not be exclusive of each other. If the contractors want to add housing on this site, there are certainly ways to add the housing and keep the history, and I would support that. The area has had much density with the Washington Street corridor, and we understand we need density, but once history is gone, it's lost. And this is a perfect example of needing to have both. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. We'll move next to Carolyn Kelly. Carolyn, you should be able to unmute yourself and you'll have 2 minutes to make your comments.
Hi, thank you very much. My name is Carolyn Kelly. I live at 44 Kenton Road, up the street from 19 Kenton. My family has been in this neighborhood since 1960. And I would just like to say that I am in support of designating this property a landmark based on the historical and the architectural significance of the house that's been noted in the study report. It's noted as a distinctive part of a collection of houses that is significant to Jamaica Plain. And I would also argue that its inclusion in the cluster of inventory points in the Massachusetts Cultural Resource Information System, or MACRIS, which I believe happened in 1969, these houses, would indicate that it does have significance beyond both the local and city levels. I do believe this house should be afforded the protections that landmark designation would provide. Thank you so much for hearing my comments.
Great, thank you. And Brad, with that, I don't see any other hands raised.
Great. Thank you, Joe, for your gatekeeping. Let's move on to anyone wishing to speak this evening in opposition to designation.
I see Richard Lind, you have your hand raised. You may unmute yourself.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. Just for the record, obviously the homeowner, based on my prior comments, is opposed to designation for the reasons that I set forth in the record, as well as the information that's been provided to the commission. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone wishing to speak this evening, not necessarily in support or designation? So, excuse me, in support or opposition? And anyone with questions or rebuttals on previously made testimony? All right, that concludes the public testimony portion of this hearing, and I would now invite commissioners to ask questions or comment on the study report or the proposed designation. I recognize it's getting late, but anyone have anything before we move to a vote? All right, I'm going to recognize again Jennifer Gaugler to please review the regulations, next steps on that.
So as required by the BLC's regulations, written statements may continue to be submitted for the record up until 3 working days following this hearing to the Boston Landmarks Commission at 20 City Hall Avenue, Boston, Massachusetts 02108. Statements may also be sent to blc@boston.gov. The public record of this hearing is available upon request to BLC staff at blc@boston.gov. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. I'm going to say that given the written and verbal testimony that we have received tonight and in previous hearings about this study report, that the commission now has the information needed to proceed to a vote. Even though the commission would vote on a designation tonight, staff would continue to accept written testimony for the record until this Friday, July 11th at 5 p.m. And the commission is just taking one vote on this matter tonight, whether to designate as a landmark. So I would entertain a motion to accept the designation of 19 Kenton Road as a Boston landmark.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Gagno. And is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Amadeo. Voting would be Commissioners Hoffman, Amadeo, and Haney. Start with Commissioner Jacques.
Yes.
Commissioner Orlando. I'm sorry, Commissioner Freeman.
Yes.
Commissioner Orlando. Commissioner Orlando still with us? No, we'll come back. Commissioner Kumahia.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Baraducci.
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Yes.
Commissioner Gagno.
Yes.
Commissioner Amadeo.
Yes.
Commissioner Haney.
Yes.
And I vote yes. So the matter is concluded. If designation passes, which it has, the commission, having voted to designate the landmark this evening, that means that staff would create a vote of designation document that will present the details about the property, list of the commissioners' votes on the designation, and the date of the vote by the Boston Landmarks Commission. The document will be sent to the city clerk, who advances it through the approximate 45-day mayoral and city council approval process. The mayor shall transmit his or her approval or disapproval to the city council within 15 days. The city council then has 30 days with which to overturn by a 2/3 vote a designation thus approved by the mayor. Once the designation document is returned to the Landmarks Commission by the city clerk, it is ready for the final step, which is recording with the Register of Deeds. So thank you all. That concludes the 19 Kenton matter designation, 19 Kenton Road designation. And we move on. I'd like to recognize Elizabeth Shirva, Deputy Director of Office of Historic Preservation, for any staff updates.
Yes, I just wanted to note that the presentation of the study report and designation vote for the Bussey House at 1203 to 1205 Adams Street has been postponed. The next Boston Landmarks Commission hearing will be Tuesday, July 22nd. The design review hearing will start at 4 p.m. and the business hearing will begin at 6 p.m. Reminder that all the commissioners are welcome to attend the design review hearing. Please join the design review hearing if you're interested in any of the items that are listed on the agenda. Presentations made during the business hearing will be brief, and as of now, the proposed agenda will include Opera House signage and some yurts at Franklin Park Zoo. We will have more on the agenda Friday when I post that up to the website. And that is all I have for this evening.
All right, thanks everybody. Thanks commissioners for sticking it out to a late hour. I would entertain a motion to adjourn at this time.
Also
moved. Okay, I'll second Brad.
David Baraducci. Who was the original motion? Jeff Gagne?
John Amadeo.
John Amadeo. And a voice vote is all we need on that. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? All right. Thank you, everybody. We're adjourned.
Okay. Good night, everyone.
Aye.